That's what I posted on Twitter earlier. That's if I switch to Ethereum charts, probably like nobody is going to be interested in this, but I sincerely believe that it's the way to go. At least for the next maybe year or 6 months. The next, like, I think Bitcoin will gain, but say Bitcoin goes to 100,000, that's really a 2.5x versus, Ethereum going to like 10K is about a 3x. And that doesn't seem like too much of a difference, but if you're talking about an extra, say, 15% profit on a 3x, a modest 3x leverage or something like that, an extra 15% on 3x, you're looking at, a lot of extra money, lot of extra money. I really believe that Ethereum is going to be more useful. It's already more useful. I know the transaction fees are high right now. I know the gas costs are high right now. But think about Bitcoin's use. Bitcoin as a store of value, okay. Sure, you can call Bitcoin a store of value, but you can't call it a currency anymore. It's not a currency. No one wants to pay in Bitcoin if they understand cryptocurrency beyond, like, if they understand shitcoins, basically is what I'm saying. If you understand shitcoins, you're gonna pay in a shitcoin. Because paying someone in Doge or Tron, it costs like nothing. Even versus paying in Bitcoin. And when you look at like minimum transaction fees, you're not going to pay in Ethereum, but Ethereum is how so many decentralized things are based. If you're very old, like me, if you've been around for a while, the original decentralized exchanges were all Ethereum pairs. This is how you traded back in the day. You traded on Ethereum pairs. You didn't trade on Bitcoin pairs, because you go to like Trade Ogre or something, one of those really old sites, one of the really old so-called decentralized exchanges. You go to a DEX and everything is ETH pair. Things being in Bitcoin pair exclusively is like maybe a few years old, but even 2017, 2018, a lot of exchanges only used ETH pairs. So for me, this is a very familiar thing to look at, but I know for a lot of people who are newer to this, they're just looking at USD pairs, probably, if anything, or if they get very deep into it, they're looking at Bitcoin pairs. I think it probably takes a special kind of person to be wanting to look at ETH, and I don't mean that I am special. I mean that it takes looking at the entire space and looking to the future of the entire space, and you consider what are the transactions happening. You look at NFTs. All the NFTs are being transacted in Ethereum. Like, you go to OpenSea and you want to buy your shitty penguin, you have to buy it in ETH. You want to send something to a generation, and get an NFT back, like an auto-generated NFT back with random properties, you don't send Bitcoin. Like, it's all in ETH. And if NFTs win, then ETH wins. And all the Ethereum used to generate these things might get dumped by, the people who are generating, or who create the NFTs in the first place and get those like royalties or whatever you want to call it. But the people who are transacting ETH at large amounts, when you buy some NFT for, I don't know, 15 ETH or something, these are mostly people who are just going to keep it. They're not going to go dump it into Bitcoin or something like that, because they're very into that space. So I think if you have NFTs winning, you have ETH winning. And there are going to be competitors like the Solana, Soul Summer or whatever. But whether those can be as successful or as accepted, I think is very different, because you have other competitors like Wax. Wax has a better let me just say, compared to like OpenSea, the way that you create portfolio for NFTs with like Wax, the way that you can set your properties for it, how much you want to charge, what royalties you want from it, all of that, so much smoother, but it doesn't run on ETH. So no one fucking uses it. And that's kind of the bottom line. Everyone understands or thinks they understand ETH. It's a name they've heard of. It's a name that normies can buy. You can buy it on Robinhood. You can't fucking send it anywhere from Robinhood, but you can buy it on Robinhood. So they know it exists. Versus trying to tell someone, oh no, you gotta buy Wax, and then they're like, what the fuck is that? And they have to buy Bitcoin or ETH to get into Wax, and they have to send the Wax to some random weird address, make their own account for it, and then in order to generate an NFT, they have to like stake some of it as RAM in the network, and it's really strange. As a system, I really like it better than OpenSea or whatever, but I say that as someone who is familiar with cryptocurrency, familiar with computers. And it's something that a normal person is not going to do. That project will not succeed because it's difficult to understand generation, right? Everything else about it is great. You can buy Wax with credit card or whatever, but something that's not based on ETH is probably not going to succeed very easily. You might have Sol. If Sol gets listed, you know, Coinbase, you know, it's already on Binance, and Sol gets on Robinhood or something, then maybe people will understand it more, but that doesn't really help it as much as I think other people believe it will help it. For example, Sol gets popular for NFTs, and then people want to buy NFTs, so they go on the Robinhood because they're normies, and they buy Sol on the Robinhood, and then realize you can't send your Sol to like a generation address or anything. You don't have an ETH address by owning ETH on Robinhood or whatever. So I think that will be a barrier. And as far as crypto for people who use crypto, any decentralized exchange has ETH pairs. Any centralized exchange has ETH pairs, like Huobi or, you know, Binance, I would consider centralized. They all have ETH pairs, and NFTs, like all the NFTs, the major players like OpenSea are based in ETH and wrapped ETH. So unless OpenSea starts like listing that you can bid in different currencies, or you can list sell prices, you know, I want it shouldn't be one or the other, right? It should be like, I want, you know, this much equivalent Bitcoin is really how they should make bids. You can pay in Tron, or you can pay in XRP, or you can pay in Doge or whatever, but the system converts that to Bitcoin and then completes the transaction in Bitcoin price. That's how an NFT platform really should work if it wants to incorporate other currencies. It shouldn't be that you have to set your bid to be in a certain currency. Like if I'm selling something, I have to ask for you know, 1 ETH, or I don't know what the equivalent is in Sol, 1 ETH or 50, no, 500 Sol would it be? It shouldn't make you pick one or the other. It should let you set your asking price in a currency and then transact with a converter up to that. But that's probably going to be too much work for a platform to do. So my suspicion is that they would just add currencies that you would have to select. But then they're going to have all this bullshit to deal with to incorporate another currency. So most likely, they're just gonna leave it in ETH and not fuck with it. And that means that even if you are a seller who is going to just dump into USD any ETH you get, it is going to apply a value to ETH because it will create utility for it. So if NFTs win ETH wins. If NFTs don't win, then ETH competitors are more likely to lose. I know that's like some 5D chess bullshit, but it's something, of course, I think about quite a bit. Generally speaking, in a bull market, you want to look at Bitcoin pairs, and a bear market, you want to look at USD pairs. I believe right now we are, for the time being, cautiously optimistic that this is a bull market and not just a lower high complacency shoulder kind of thing. That play is not off the table yet, but if we are to move into a bull market, I think that this time the best opportunity is to stack Gwei. We always say stack sat because it's a you know, it's a nice thing to say, it's a fun thing to say, and it's a smart thing to do, but man, stacking Gwei is going to be stack Gwei, it's the way. There we go. We just rhyme way with way. Like I said, the flavor of the month is NFTs. I'm not fucking with them at all, but the gas fees people are not happy about, but they're still paying them. And what that shows me is that ETH is not playing out to be a currency. And I really think that's a good thing. I think if you have very cheap transactions on ETH, then people will want to treat it like a currency instead of a utility token. And if you start to treat it as a currency, oddly, that kind of devalues it because it becomes too easy to get rid of it. Whereas if transaction fees are expensive, but they also have utility, like making contracts or making an NFT or something, then it really makes you hesitant to transact if you don't have to. And strangely enough, that sort of encourages you to hold on to it and to not use it if you don't have to. It forces you to acknowledge its value through utility instead of its value through transaction. Whereas you have something like, say, Tron, which has no fucking utility at all, but it has value in transaction because it's very, very cheap to send or receive Tron versus sending or receiving Bitcoin. Like, Tron is great for a currency. It doesn't do shit that it was supposed to do, but Tron is great to use for paying someone. And it's great to use for receiving. It's on all the platforms and you can exchange it for Bitcoin or ETH or something very easily. So Tron is fantastic as a currency, even though that's not what it is supposed to be. But ETH was never supposed to be a currency, and it's very clearly not, because you lose a fuck ton of money if you try to send it in a transaction, and no one's going to want to pay that big gas cost and lose a bunch of money to send someone a payment in Ethereum. And removing that aspect of it as a currency, I think, very much reinforces that it's supposed to be a utility. And when you use it as a utility, you have a cost that's reinforcing that you're doing something important with it. So if you are sending this to mint an NFT or something, you're considering that like an investment cost or a utility cost. It's not a transaction cost, right? It's slightly, I mean, you can say, oh, well, you are transacting it, of course, but I think the mindset is different around that. When you see that you're spending a lot to send it somewhere, you want it to be for a damn good reason. Versus if it costs a couple cents, you'll just be sending it around, shuffling wallets like all the time, and it doesn't matter. But just even for me, as someone who's just stacking Ethereum, who's not doing NFTs and not doing smart contracts and things, just as someone who's stacking Ethereum, and I buy every couple of weeks, I'm just averaging in, and it is painful to see that transaction cost and think, do I want to send it to my wallet immediately, or do I want to wait for a couple buys and, you know, only spend one transaction fee? So you start to think more in terms of it as a resource than just a raw currency, for sure. And I think I think that is a good thing. I know that's a very strange outlook to try and spin high transaction fees as a good thing, and probably almost no one agrees with me. It'd probably be very hard pressed to find anyone on crypto Twitter who agrees with me that high transaction fees have been a good thing for Ethereum for the short term. I expect that they will try to fix or adjust, is probably a better word. I expect that they will try to adjust those fees to be lesser in the future, because if you can use Ethereum as a currency, of course, then it will get more use, and that's the ultimate goal, to make Ethereum the cryptocurrency that you can use for everything. You can use it for smart contracts, you can use it for NFTs, you can use it for currency, etc., etc. But the way it stands right now, you can't do that. I think they will try to change that, but in the meantime, I don't feel that the high gas prices are really hurting it. And I think that it will see 5 digits. I think it's going to triple from here. Sooner or later, I think it sees 10,000. Whether that's due to economic inflation in other areas, just devaluation of the dollar causing the dollar value of Ethereum to rise, or the public adoption of crypto, or some combination between those sorts of things. Whatever the reason, I do believe that's going to happen. I think your 6-digit Bitcoin is on the table, but if you believe, you know, $100,000 Bitcoin or $1 million Bitcoin or something, then you have to acknowledge also that Ethereum is going to be carried up as well. And for the time being, I think that the gains that are available to you this cycle, before whatever the next bear cycle tends to be, or whenever that comes, because there will be cycles, of course, there will be bear cycles. But I think between now and the next bear cycle, if we're not already in one, that Ethereum will be the bigger gainer.